Have you ever looked up from your creative business and realized that somewhere along the way, you stopped actually making the thing that made you fall in love with all of this in the first place? That the work you built your whole practice around has quietly become the thing you're avoiding? And instead, you've filled the space with other projects, other income streams, other reasons to stay busy, because at least those feel productive, right? I think a lot of us know this feeling, even if we don't say it out loud. What does it mean when the creative work you most want to be doing is, in fact, the hardest thing to make yourself sit down and do? And what happens when you realize that some of the businesses, quote unquote, that you've built along the way weren't really about the money? They were just a more socially acceptable way to avoid the scary, uncertain, deeply personal work that you're being called to, but that takes an awfully lot of work to figure out how to make. Today's guest is Christina Orthwein, a sculptor, a ceramicist, and a longtime college professor who has spent the last several years doing exactly this kind of honest reckoning. After 2 decades as a production potter, Christina pivoted to sculpture during COVID. And you have probably seen her work online at one time or another as you scrolled and then immediately stopped scrolling to look at the way that she's able to capture that specific feeling of something you can't quite describe, but immediately know and maybe even understand, but for sure recognize nonetheless. The realism in her work with humans holding phones sure has stopped me on more than one occasion. But that deep intentionality during COVID ultimately found her retreating back into a jewelry business that she didn't entirely need, for reasons she only recently has been able to name out loud. This conversation goes a lot of places, like the psychology of social media and what it does to our artist brains while we're mid-process, the tension between craft and art and what it actually means to have something to say with your work, and the very real question of what happens when growing a business turns you into, well, more of a business owner instead, or maybe in spite of, being an artist. But at the heart of it is something I think many of us are sitting with right now. How do you get to the work that actually matters to you? Even when every distraction you've created for yourself is technically also a valid thing you could be doing instead. And I'm sort of talking about myself in this introduction, so let's get right into all of it right after a brief word from our sponsor. This episode is sponsored by The Community, your creative business support system with over 100 makers from around the world. With both the practical education you need to make a living from the things you make, found in our masterclasses on topics like finances, marketing, and SEO, plus the emotional support of fellow makers who truly understand what it's like to try and make a living from the things we make. It's like having both a business school designed specifically for artists and a team of colleagues who actually get what you're going through. But you don't have to take my word for it.
Hi everyone, this is Melissa of MWY Pottery. I've been a member of the Makers Playbook community for over a year and a half, but not consecutively. I first joined when I was relatively new to selling my ceramics and wanted more support in doing that. This year, I joined a different ceramics mentorship program to focus on my artistic development and paused my community membership to decrease business expenses, with a plan to rejoin the community at several points throughout the year for the master classes. But who was I kidding? I didn't even last a month. I missed the community and the people so much, especially our co-working sessions, so I just rejoined for the year. So if you're a parent like me and you're signing your kid up for summer camps right now, and you don't even hesitate to pay the same cost for a 1-year community membership for a 1-week K-pop Demon Hunters dance camp for your child, I kid you not, but you hesitate to treat yourself, consider this an invitation to learn more. Feel free to ask me questions on Instagram at MWY Pottery, and I hope you join us soon.
Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Maker's Playbook, the show where we talk all about what it's really like to make a living from the things you make. I'm your host, seasoned entrepreneur of 14 years, Rebecca Ikes Kara.
You should probably hit record. This is a great
Right?
question. Let's start with you, Rebecca. Tell me about your journey with clay.
Well played. Well played. I feel like I'm getting back to it because what's funny is that, it was the hobby the serious passion hobby aside from the photography work because I wanted to get my hands dirty again and get off a computer. But then, as we all know, we fall in love with this medium and you want it to take over everything it possibly can, including for me, my love life. I met my husband because of
Oh,
pottery.
nice. Cute. That's
But
fun.
then he's a production potter and a professional and
Oh,
full time. And so then it really took over. And since then, we've actually both shifted a little bit in how we earn a living so that now I've made more pots for the sake of creativity in the last, I don't know, 4 months,
mhm,
5 months than the
nice.
5 years we've been together, in all honesty. So yeah, so we're coming back to it, I feel like, which sounds funny for somebody who's been self-employed for so long. So, with that, I will say, hey, Christina, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Rebecca. Happy to be here.
Thanks for answering a random person on the internet whose internet is now incredibly spotty.
It's all right.
As I'm talking about the weather, remind me where you're at. I know you're on the East Coast.
Yes, I'm just north of Philadelphia by like half hour in a little town
Nice.
called Brynathan. We have castles and cathedrals, and it's gorgeous here.
You're in like a secret European part of the
Yeah,
United States, it feels like. The name, like it's giving United Kingdom vibes.
yeah, visually as well. It's really pretty, and it's just kind of tucked away in this northern suburbs of Philly, and yeah, I've lived here pretty much my whole life, and it's good.
That was gonna be my next question of how long you've been there, like what wound you up in that spot? Because the interesting thing I find with pottery is that we wind up being in some of the most seemingly random places just for the ability
Hmm.
to have studio space or a wood kiln or, the strange access to resources pottery specifically needs. Where so many other industries, you hear about being in these hubs, right? If you want to be in TV, you're going to go to LA. If you want to do whatever, like food, New York, or, what, like all these really, really intense central globe places. And I don't think, I mean, we have Asheville. We obviously have Helena, Montana. There are hubs, but not
Right.
in the same condensed kind of way, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm definitely not in a hub. There's very little ceramic community around here, but I'm doing my best to build it and find my people.
Well, I feel like Philly has a great arts community in general.
They do, and there's the ceramic shop there. I mean, no, that's my store. There's the clay studio there, which is huge and, internationally recognized and very fancy and not my vibe. So, I haven't really been part of that scene, but, that's okay. I appreciate that it's there.
I was gonna say, I feel like you make very fancy sculpture, so it lines up in my head.
Yeah. That's just in this little basement room by myself. That's the thing about being a ceramic artist is we tend to work in our dungeons alone. It's nice that you and your husband get to work together or share the love of pottery just even in your home. Because I'm always just down here like messy and clay covered and cold by myself,
Right.
and it's fine, but not special.
We still have a dungeon for sure. All of our glaze work, all the glaze materials is in the basement, which is unfinished and is like a cellar. And it's probably about 42 degrees down there right now, Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so cold. I was just out lying in the sun right before this because I've been working all day and I'm cold.
Listen, I didn't know before we got married. Like, I feel like had I known he threw with cold water before we got married, I would have had to have a conversation.
We accept our partners as they are. I know it's so possible to throw with warm water. It's such a delight. And the clay is always cold, so like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. I feel vindicated. I'm just going to take that little audible clip and save it forever. And that was it. That was the point of this interview.
Just play it on
And we're
repeat.
done. Goodbye.
All right, he's wrong. Applies to anything.
It'll become a what's the what's like the viral audio thing or whatever for a reel? We'll just
Yeah.
like female identifying potters everywhere.
Yeah.
We'll just start using this. Well, before I get carried away, I think I've already gotten carried away. Nobody can actually see who I'm talking to. So I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself. That was the most awkward way to ask you to introduce yourself ever. So we'll just
I love if
ignore
you can
that.
be more awkward than me, that'll make me look great. So just have at it. I'm Christina Orthwein. I work in near Philadelphia in my basement, and for 26 years, I've taught at Burnethan College, ceramics and photography. For about 20 years, I was a potter, and then COVID hit, and I became a sculptor out of sheer depression. And I really liked that, and then for whatever I can't even go into the psychology of what happened when I decided I needed to step back from sculpture and create a tile jewelry business over the last few years, but I've been doing that, and then just this year, I've let go of that, and I'm trying to go back to sculpture because that is where I actually really wanna be. So, I've been all over the place, and I've also just quit my teaching job, so I will be doing other things now and feeling good about that. I'm at a crossroads, if you will.
I was gonna say, I didn't even know that crossroads was happening when we scheduled this time. Like, this is the beautiful thing about this podcast is there's like, I'm looking at what you're doing online being like, "Oh my god, this sculpture work is incredible. I need to learn how the heck you make this work." And not like I'm sure everybody wants to know the craftsmanship skills that are honed over years of knowledge. Not that how to, but just it's I imagine sculpture is such a different reality than, like, the production work we were making, right? And that side of things, but just this little intro, it's why I love it so much is because in that moment, if somebody would have as I was looking at your stuff, if somebody would have had me guess your reality, I would have assumed sculpture was always your specialty because the level of detail and the realism that you get is just absolutely incredible. So the fact that that's been 6 years you said during COVID? So that was only a
Yeah,
relatively
less
short period of
than
time?
that. I kinda started in 21 probably.
That's incredible. That's incredible. But then also everything else, I just had no idea that the tiles were that recent or there's just so many things or even there's so much now my brain's going wild because I'm like, okay, we've got to talk about teaching. We've got to talk about sculpture. Like
Yeah.
where to begin? Well, also especially since you said for 20 years you were a potter and then switched to sculpture and my brain doesn't necessarily like segment these things. So tell me just on a high level kind of what you were doing before the sculpture took hold.
I was a wheel worker. I made pottery, and I did a lot of hand decorating it. I did a lot of, writing on my bowls, typography, and I liked to do carving on things, and then that kind of transitioned to I wanted to be able to spend more time on the design and less time on the production of a thing, so I discovered ways to do the carving in reverse on plaster, and then I could press it and apply it to my pottery and then cut out around it, and I started this whole series of, like, art deco pots that I still really like them, and I sort of was oh, man, I have, like, a whole artist talk about this. I vacillated alright, I'll go into it just a little bit. As a artist and potter and craftsperson, and we clay people float along between those things. We're craftspeople, we're artists. Are we craft? Are we allowed to call ourselves an artist? What does that even mean? And for much of my career, I wanted to think of myself as an artist, but I also was aware that I was mostly being a production potter, which there was a lot of artistry and intention behind what I was doing, but it still felt like I was being a craftsperson. And then I hit this whole like, well, there's two ways you can kind of make your career out of this. You can become a production potter where you are just mass producing lots and lots of things and, selling lots of them, which was going really well for me. I could generally sell as much as I could make, and that was great. Or you can become like a fine art potter where you spend a week on a piece and then you can sell it for, $1,000 or something, which is hard to do, but you can work into that. There are people who do that and then they become well known for that thing. And there are certain artists that do this, and their teapot is what you'd be like, "Oh, that's a Jim Connell." That's a
Mhm.
whatever, a Jennifer McCurdy piece. And, like, you know them, you identify them just by looking at them. Those people are making the same thing. You're not allowed to veer from your style or people get mad. And there are people that I really admire that I think do that very successfully, who like Jennifer McCurdy is a great example of somebody who has a style that's extremely identifiable and then also wildly expressive and unique. All of them, like she's always pushing limits and trying new shapes and just slight variations so that it evolves. And her pieces are incredible. And then there's other people who are making the exact same piece for 4 decades. And then they're known for that same piece. And that felt a little soul sucking to me. So as I was sort of going through this, I had been a production potter for a lot of years. And then when I hit my Art Deco phase, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to slow down and see if I can't make it where this style is recognizable. And people will say, oh, that's Christina Orthwein. And sort of lean toward the Jennifer McCurdy vibe of like, the style is recognizable, but there's still a lot of flexibility to move around within that style. And I did that for a while and was enjoying it, but I don't know what I have very hard time staying focused. Like I want to try something else and I want to do this other thing and I just my energy just has to go with where I don't know. Like I get burnt out, I guess, doing the same thing for too long. Even within my pottery, I was always like, well, I've done words too long. I'm going to try this thing. Well, I've done that thing too long. I'm going to try something else. And I just found that I was not a person who could sit still in a style long enough to become known for it. And
Mm.
that feels like a requirement in the pottery world to make it, either as a high level artsy gallery person or as a production potter. You have a little more freedom if you're just producing stuff and going to shows and selling them because you're not necessarily followed in the same way, but you kind of are. To even get into the shows, you kind of need to be like, oh, this your work. I follow you, that kind of thing. And then people go from being willing to pay $40 for a mug to being willing to pay $90 for a
100.
mug and $200 for a mug. And then making that leap is by becoming recognizable. So it's just part of the rules of the game. And the other rule is you have to share on Instagram. And I have a lot of battles with that and issues with that as a concept. And, my sculpture work is about that and our involvement with the social media and what it does to us as individually and as a society and our mental health and all of those things. So anyway, all that to say that I just was all over the place. And when I give this artist talk to students or whatever when I'm traveling around, I'm like, you can go either way, but to find success you kind of have to play the game a little bit. And I suppose there's the odd person who doesn't, but I can't think of any. I don't know any artists who aren't on Instagram and who don't have a distinguishable style who are successful. I haven't seen that. I don't know that that's a thing. There's not a lot of rules in what you make. You can make what you make, but you kind of have to follow the rules. If you be predictable, you can stretch within your little room, but you can't move out of that too often and maintain your appeal. I don't know, your growth.
Mm.
Anyway, and I don't. There probably are successful potters that don't use Instagram.
I think so. Like, I can think of people who they still definitely have a distinguishable style, a recognizable style, but don't necessarily play all in on social media. But
Yeah,
I couldn't,
but are they
as you
older?
were talking,
Have they come?
well, also, potentially.
Like, did they
That's the
make their
easy,
name for themselves before?
exactly. The easy examples I can think of are anybody who made their name 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, maybe. I still have to believe that there's a way to do it without it, but the big but here and the big caveat for me is whenever I hear somebody talking about how to grow their business without social media, I think what people hope that answer is going to be is a lack of having to self-promote, and the
Mm.
self-promotion is still always going to be necessary, right? Whether
Yeah.
that be on Instagram, whether that be building relationships, networking with galleries, whether that be,
Mhm.
becoming a name in your local community and people knowing who you are locally, if that's
Yeah.
where you want to focus. There's always some level of needing to do the self promotion, whether it be as blatant as Instagram or as organic as telling your neighbor you make pots. Like, that's still self promotion.
Right. And I do think people who are like high level art gallerists or gallery artists who can escape that. If you get to a certain level and, probably it's through academia, you will get picked up by galleries
Mhm.
and they'll do the promotion for you. And that is rare and it is not really, I don't think, a thing for potters. It's more for sculptors. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. It's just my experience. And maybe there comes a point once you've self-promoted enough that you can let it go, but I just would be shocked if too many people. I mean, I'm sure there's always exceptions to the rule, but
Yeah, and I think there's also that the whatever the psychology is that we always move the goal lines on ourselves, right? So
Mm,
like you can
mm,
start out with saying when I hit this number that will be enough on social
mm,
media and then I'll back down and I'll, you know, it'll the flywheel will work itself. I'll have enough a large enough audience or whatever and then I don't have to worry about social media so much anymore. But then, like, your expectation adjusts as you grow or as the business grows or as things change, and so then the number you thought where you were going to be able to back down, well, now you've gotten used to this certain amount of, let's call it success for lack of a better
oh, and
word.
there's always somebody with another 100,000 from you, like, there's always, you know, somebody else who's like, "Well, if they can be having 500,000 followers, why can't I have 500,000 followers?" And why is there are
Yep.
potters who have millions of followers, and it's rare, but it's a thing, and it's like money, like, it's the gathering and the I don't know if I'd use the word addiction, though. I definitely think there's a heavy dose of addiction involved with social media, but I think it is, like, a maybe ambition that people can get sucked into, and not for want of value. I feel like there's value in it, and I
Mhm.
do it. I play the game, so I'm not
Yep.
criticizing. I don't like it.
Yeah, but I like that you phrased it as playing a game because that has always helped me, like, mentally to acknowledge that, like, I have chosen to opt myself in to playing this game, and it is a
Mm,
game. It's not like a when I see artists get really riled up on the internet when, I don't know, the algorithm changes or whatever,
mm,
there's this sense that I feel, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me if you feel differently, that, like, the feeling was that Instagram was there to be a benevolent space for all of us to,
mm,
I don't know, whether we wanna call it a democratic space or I just keep coming back to the word benevolent of, like, just this free, lovely space. And I'm always reminded, and the reason I call it a game as well, is, like, it's a for-profit company, guys. It's gonna
mm,
do whatever it needs to do to also still keep making money. And
mm,
we happen to be on it to try and take advantage of what it might provide us instead of spending thousands of dollars taking out ads in a magazine, because that's what you would have done
yeah.
20 years ago.
Oof. It's just oh my gosh, yeah. We could let's just have the podcast about the psychology of changing yourself for to get the clicks, to get the
Mm,
likes, to get the reaction, and how that has deteriorated our society on just a massive scale of politically and the way we interact with one another with such vitriol and because it's just anger is addictive and it gets the clicks and shock is addictive and it gets the clicks and it gets Instagram the money. So they want somebody on there who's being shocking and unpleasant. And I think Instagram's less bad than some of the other ones, but it's out there and it's a gross way of getting human beings to be their most base self and promoting
mm,
sexualization and violence and hate and all these things are it just they're so easy to promote and that being pleasant and cute is nice and it gets some attention but disproportionately, and I don't know. I don't think it does great things for us. Oof. Okay. We should probably talk about clay things because literally, I could literally talk about my opinions about and my feelings about it. Like it's massive for me. About
No.
how I feel about what it does to me. How I feel when I'm sculpting. I have a camera between me and my sculpture, and what that does to my brain. How that keeps me from sculpting
Mm,
and how that makes me self-conscious while I'm doing it and makes me afraid of making mistakes and embarrassed about what I'm doing and it's not the finished product yet. And all of that that's just and I can choose not to show this to people. So but just it's in the back of my head like, "Oh gosh, hope nobody sees that," or "Oh gosh." And then to work around a camera is like that's not good, I think, for the artist's psyche. And yet I love watching other artists work. Like, process videos are incredible for me as an artist. Like, it's so good. Watching somebody
yep.
sculpt is I it's like tasty juice. I love it. It's so and I appreciate that they do it, which is why I feel like it's okay for me to struggle with it and still do it because I feel like there is use and good in it. And sharing our art is
Mm.
important and valuable and beautiful, and I have had so many budding sculptors reach out to me and ask questions and feel inspired, and I'm like, "Well, that's the reason. That's valid and good." Those are good things, so it is all the things.
And that's always my reminder to myself because it's funny that you brought up funny's not the right word, it's just a flip turn of phrase, but, you know, bringing up the psychology of what it's doing to us and anger being the thing that's easy to engage with and drive all these clicks. There's been a lot of times that I notice, like, other podcasts out in the world that take whatever little clip of a
Mm,
conversation, obviously, like, a little portion out of context to go and promote, and I obviously share clips as well to promote the show for somebody to come and listen, but noticing that, like, it's not almost, I imagine a lot of times it's intentionally a clip that's going to be divisive or
yeah,
going to rile people up, and it's obviously out of context. There's clearly a larger
yeah,
conversation happening around it, but doing that on purpose in order to promote a show, and I was talking about this with some of my community members being like, I am consciously trying never to do that, right? I don't ever want to intentionally, also just out of respect of the people who say yes to coming on,
mm,
like, I can't imagine how it would feel to open up the internet one day, see that I've shared the interview, and be like, "Wait, that's not what I meant by that." That's
yeah,
affecting your reputation and your name.
yeah,
However, when I was explaining this to my community members, I was saying in the same breath that because I'm making that decision, I also know that I will only get a certain amount of growth. We will only get a certain amount of engagement. My goal is never to go viral, right? It's just not going to happen, presumably, because I'm not playing the game to that level, because that doesn't align for me from a moral value standpoint. And it's like
yeah,
once you accept that, I feel like for me, it kind of released something. I don't know. I'm
mhm.
waving my hands in the air like I
Yeah,
just don't care. Anyway, it released that expectation, I guess. It released that, like, the driving of, like, let me try and post to see how big it can get or to go
mhm,
viral or whatever. Like, knowing if I'm not going to do that, it's not going to happen. And that's okay. There's still new people that find the show. Will it grow
yeah.
slower? Yes. But I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. So here we are.
Yeah, and within those
Don't know.
constraints that you give yourself, you can find the interesting thing somebody says, and, you know,
Hmm.
that's delightfully responsible of you. I can give you a quote if you want. "The most sexual thing I've ever seen!" You can put that out. Christina Orthwein, "I was so angry, I punched him in the face, he totally deserved it." There we go. You can put those out there. "I smashed my sculptor over their head." Yeah,
The intentional,
you're right,
also
he's
the
wrong.
like, okay. Now I'm just going down a whole rabbit hole of internet. When you say I smashed my sculpture over the head, I'm like, I just pictured the trend for a while where everybody was like, "Oops, I bumped my wearboard and knocked over this whole board of pots." And I'm like, you did, like,
Oh,
that was clearly on purpose,
oh.
guys. Come on.
So
Come
frustrating.
on.
So frustrating.
We need critical thinking on the internet.
Mm. I mean, I do like when people share the videos of when something is, like, totally falling over and smashes, like, there are some awful videos
Yes.
that are so, like a beautiful, amazing sculpture that's just straight up falling over, and it's like, "Oh, no." And that's not for, promotion, but, yeah, it
Oh,
is
no.
cheesy when people do those things.
Well, I mean, it shouldn't surprise me that we started out with this subject because if anybody, as soon as people do see your sculptural work, this also makes so much sense to me because it hit such a deep chord looking at those sculptures. Even I've never
Mm.
seen one in person, just looking online, being like, oh my gosh, like this, not only for the realism, but then also that I was gonna say the emotion you're relaying, but it's more like a lack of emotion, isn't it? I don't know. I don't wanna put words into your mouth about your work.
Yeah, I think it is emotional, but it's like an internal emotion. It's speaking to connection and addiction. That's kind of how I would phrase it in a really
Mm.
concise way. and how both of those things are incredibly powerful and a little at odds with one another, and they both exist at the same time, and they both exist silently and totally within.
Mm.
And, so these, they're all kids and they're all barefoot, which is to express them being in their own space. So they're not with other people, but they're interacting, They might be watching an amazing video where they're learning something, or they might be hating themselves because they're not as beautiful as someone or talented, and it's just silent and full. Like, it's such a full thing. And yeah, I was trying, I haven't really shared how I've finished most of them, and I've only finished a few of them, but when I make them, I try and make them a little bit neutral. Like, you don't know what that person's experiencing, whether they're just zoned out or whether they're feeling happy or sad about it. But what I've done with the finish on the ones that I've done does sort of point to the negative of social media. And I'm not totally sure how I feel about that. I kind of liked the neutrality of it as I was building them. I don't really want to lead people. I want them to be able to experience, but I did. I went and made them all like really pointed. And I don't know whether I'll keep them that way or redo them, but yeah, I don't mind it being vague.
Your actual sculpture work, obviously, and the irony or the obvious, I should have had the expectation of starting off this conversation with a deep dive into the psychology of social media because that's so represented in
Mm.
your work. It's so apparent and that connects. And what you were saying about the neutrality of it is, I think, in part that feels how sculpture works so well for it, because I think if you were painting a scene and not having a ton of detail in the eyes or something like that, not having pupils, then it would be unsettling. But somehow with sculpture, it works and
Mm.
also adds that layer of neutrality. I don't know. I'm getting very much more philosophical than we normally do on this podcast.
Yeah,
So
no, it's a whole thing. Tackling the concept of art is such a fascinating thing versus like, I do a lot of workshops and we talk about technically how to make things, beautiful or tight or clean or whatever, and have when to work with clay and this and that, and it's all very practical. And then you talk about sculpture and it's like immediately, what does it mean? You know, what are you saying? And, it's jarring in a way to tackle that, the responsibility of speaking when lean into the world of art versus craft is, exciting and daunting.
how do you I'm gonna slightly ask you a question that I had grown to hate in art school. So this is just your
Mm.
perspective, not the canon, not academia, not what is art, capital A, as a public whatever. But how for
Mm.
you does that difference play out between craft and art? Because I'm thinking about all these changes that you've recently made or in the middle of making
Right.
and what that looks like.
Me, the place that it crosses the line, and they definitely interact completely, is, art is the aspect of communication. It's having something to say and saying it. And you can do that in a mug, or you can just make a mug, not just, but, or you can make a mug that is it's beautiful to hold and it functions beautifully and the glaze is real nice. And the purpose of it is to be technically tight and whatever, all the intention of craft. But as soon as you want to talk about something, like if you put fuck ice on it, then it's like you're imbuing in a message in it, and then that's where you're putting the art into it, the craft. Same thing with the other direction. So you can have something that's incredibly powerful, and you're really talking about message, 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 but it can be practically void of craft. And there can be things that are just thick with bows, and there's not a right way. But to me, that's where the difference is. It's sort of like the technical versus the emotion or the message. Yeah, for me, it's very different when I'm sculpting it. I feel very much more pressure, and I don't know. You're gonna spend 6 months on something, you might as well talk about something. I don't know.
I was just going to say, I wonder if some of that pressure, and this was a question that came up because I share with our community members who I'm going to be interviewing, so they have a chance to like look at what you do and post questions for me to ask. Bree was asking how many days or weeks, or to your point, months, does it take to make a full human sculpture? I'm imagining that some of that pressure you're talking about is in part because of just the time commitment, right? Like when a production potter gets to the point of being able to throw a 2-minute cylinder, a mug is slightly
Mhm.
less precious, maybe to
Yeah,
them, not to the person buying it for,
right. And that oof, that's a game that's another game that that potters just deal with all the time is, like, how much do I get fast versus put the time in to make it special, and there's a lot of people that really want to just illustrate their mugs or sculpt their mugs, and that's so many hours, and it's like, but I can sell the same, 3-minute mug for $60, or I can sell the 3-day mug for $60. Anyway, that's a
Mhm.
whole thing. My sculptures take me I have never timed it. I spend months on them, but that is only because I don't work on them very often. It's not because they actually take that many hours. I work an hour a day, for months. The one I'm working on right now, which is directly to my left, I was initially recording the hours because people always ask me, "How many hours?" And I was keeping a log, and I just kept forgetting to do it, so I don't know. It's not actually a huge number of hours. I would guess 60 hours, maybe 80, depending on the one, but it takes me a long time, and then they just sit there for months before I fire them, so then that's, more months, and that's just me being lazy, like, they don't need to sit that long, I'm just disinterested, I've moved on to something else. I literally have I've just fired a couple, but I have 3 large unfired sculptures in my studio just because, and they've been done for years, just because I'm lazy and I can't be bothered to fire them. I have this one that's the only, like, full life-size one I did. I finished years ago, and people they're like, "I wanna see the finished version." I'm like, "It's not." Like, it's still just sitting there, and, I own that. It's on me, but, I'll get there.
All I can think about is how fragile they are.
I know, and that's why I just did a firing of a couple because I kept reaching over it to pull out my cookie cutters were behind it, and I kept being like, don't bump it," and I was like, "Just put it in the kiln, like, crying out loud, put it in the kiln." So I was like, "Okay, put it in the kiln." And then I knocked the phone. I have one of my son holding his phone. I knocked his thumb off and the phone out, and he loves it. He's like, "I love that it's broken." I'm like, "Cool," because that was definitely
Because it's
not on
yours.
purpose.
Because you're
Yeah.
gonna have it forever. Practically speaking, getting back into my own lane here, how does that work? I mean, I know you only just mentioned, so I'm guessing it's gonna be like this fall is the first year without teaching? I was just thinking pragmatically, my assumption was the ability to spend months, if not years, on a handful of sculptures is in part because teaching provides a certain amount of stability. But tell me how it actually
Hmm.
pragmatically works. Maybe not.
Yeah, I don't do the sculpture work for money. So that is I have complete freedom from that, and that is vital for me to stay that way. I need it to be separate. I have a lot of commission work and stuff that I do that I can make money with. But what I'm doing this year, what I let go of really focusing on my jewelry business a few months ago, and I have switched up and I have started a thing called the Clay Collaboration, which is a group of there's 8 of us right now, really top-notch potters and well-known people, and we all love to do workshops, travel and do workshops. So we're doing this group where we self-promote, and we're gonna when I go, I have a whole bunch of shop scheduled. This is why I quit my job because I want to travel and do workshops. So I have a couple Denver and then Portland coming up, and then I just a bunch, and I'm very excited about it. In our clay collaboration, I'll have information about all of my friends who are also successful, good presenters. Like I've seen them all present and I know that they're top notch. And I will hand them, I'll be like, after I do my workshop, I'll be like, here are some other awesome people to consider. And they will all do the same for each other. So we're just going to be out there self promoting or co promoting, cross promoting, and trying to get the workshop thing flowing because that is rather that's still not gonna be my full-time thing, but, rather than teaching, that's why I'm kind of replacing it with workshops, and, my youngest is 18 and will be going off to college next year, so the parenting thing is not done, it's never done,
I
obviously,
was just gonna say.
but yeah. No, I recognize that I'm not done. I'm not saying he's out of my life, but there's a lot more space to do travel and stuff and not feel like I'm missing out on him or my other 2. I spent a lot of years just being a stay-at-home, work in the basement mom for their sake and loving that. I'm glad I made that choice, and I'm very, very happy to be in a different place now. So,
Spoken, I think, as any parent, not being a parent, but having friends that are parents and hearing it, friends who are parents of toddlers currently, that
oh,
feels
yeah.
like accurately spoken to me.
Yeah. Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, they have a long road ahead of them. Oh,
I will not
I
have
paid my
them
dues.
listen to that part of the
You get there eventually, but goodness, there's a
right,
lot. And
right.
it's so good, it's
You're
so
gonna
good, but it's
earn
like,
every
oh my
minute.
gosh.
You
Yeah.
have 3?
I have 3, yeah. My oldest is living in New York and working at a cool computer job that he loves, and my middle one is in France, living in France and studying modern literature and French, and then my youngest is gonna go to school for engineering, and none of them are artists. They're they're musically talented, and they have other things that they're, brilliant, like, oh my gosh, I've got some smart kids, and they're great. Really, really nice humans, I love them dearly, and not artists. So, oh well, it's okay.
I mean, I think there's creativity and art in so many things that people don't think are, like, especially as people so often, so many of us find clay later in life and then have this other job for so long, and it's like, "Oh, if I only could have," and it's like, well, you've been being creative,
Yeah.
like, in a million other ways, just
Yeah,
not
that's real.
with that craft
Yes.
side, the understanding what consistency does this clay need to be at so that I can push it to its absolute limit because I wanna modify a
Right.
thrown form or whatever. So what I'm hearing is workshops in France. That's what I took from that.
Yes, that's exactly the whole point. That's why I
I was
made that
like,
child because I knew he would go live in France.
I love it. Love it when a plan comes together.
Right?
Um,
It's only took 21 years.
can I get on the list of referrals for Clay Collab? Like, how do I
Do you do
I'm just kidding.
workshops?
Yeah, for photography. Yep, yep, yep. Nobody who has
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, because that's been my profession prior to well, not prior, like, in tandem with the pots, but nobody wants to
Mhm.
somebody would
Mhm.
wanna learn, how to throw efficiently from Francesco, but nobody wants to especially I just did I'm going, like, total aside, I don't know. I cannot throw well, I shouldn't say I can't throw and talk at the same time, but I switched
Mm.
seats, and I was interviewed on a podcast recently on Mike's, Between Two
Oh.
Ewers podcast, which the whole premise is, like, you're making your work while
Oh.
you're being interviewed, but,
Yes. Yeah, he's cool.
like, he's great, but I feel like anybody who has actually watched that, speaking of video podcasts and not audio only, is probably thinking, "Oh my god, I've been listening to Rebecca for the past, like, 5 years. She's talking about pots as if she knows one, but clearly she can't make a pot." Because I was so
Oh,
in my
no.
head, I was so aware of being on video, much to your point about recording
Yeah.
yourself, like, I just
Yeah.
I couldn't get out of
Oh,
that
funny.
space, and I think I made 2 bud vases in 90 minutes.
Oh.
Like, I can
That's
throw, I
okay.
promise I can, but nobody knows.
Right.
I also should have
Funny.
decided what I was gonna make before we started so I didn't have to think about it. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
I gotta redo
Right.
it, but
Yes.
no, for photography, absolutely. For photographing
Yeah.
pots, specifically, for photographing artwork.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yep, because
Yeah.
that's the
That's
thing,
cool. That's
you
something a
know
lot of people need. Oh my gosh.
Precisely. Precisely, because also I know so many amazing potters who, if the photo is bad, then they're not gonna sell as much of their work on the internet because the photo's not doing the pot justice. Whereas I could come along as a newbie, almost 10 years ago now, and sell pots on the internet because my photos were good, not because the pots were
Yep.
particularly good, if I'm being blatantly
Yeah,
honest.
that's real.
So
And
so
like
yeah.
trying to get into shows or juried things, like it's half the photograph.
Yep.
half the work.
Speaking of games, it's the game of gaming, the game of
Oh,
applications
right.
and all of these things, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
but
It is a game, and, yeah, oof, that's a whole other thing. I just applied to present it in Sika again, which would be cool if I get it and fine if I don't, and just learning the speak, how to do the words and write a good proposal and make your photos good, and, yeah, all that applying to stuff is a whole other thing that some people have those skills and some people don't, and it isn't about the quality of your work in that instance. It's about, can you play those other side games to promote and sell yourself?
yep. And there's so many this would be the other thing going back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of like, the quote unquote rule of having to be on social media or having to be on Instagram. There's always these other skills that you have to learn in order to quote unquote
Mhm.
succeed at the thing that you actually want to do, right? Like getting good at talking to strangers and marketing myself was crucial to have a successful photography business. It had very little to do with like, once I got to a certain level of skills with photography, obviously, like, you can't be total crap.
Yes, right.
The people buying, whether it be photography services, whether it be pottery, whether it be sculpture, like, most of them don't know the inner workings of our craft. So once you are to a certain level of quality, continuing it to improve on that is for ourselves, really, and for our own passion and interest in the craft. And then
Mm.
there's these other skills you have to
Ooh,
get good at to
interesting.
actually commercially
Yeah.
succeed, if you will.
Video editing is such a big thing. I feel like I see so many people make reels and stuff on Instagram, and it's just like, "Oh, wow, you like, first of all, lighting, and second of all, edit that thing." Like, that could have been a third the length. And then you can either put more content in there or make it very bite-sized, and so many people don't have that instinct or that knowledge, and it just so, yeah, you should do workshops on these things, like how to photograph and make the reels, and, like, that is really good information for artists to have. And here's another little beef, like, you go to art school, I don't know, hopefully they're better now. I went to art school a long time ago because 'cause I'm old, but, like, there was one optional weekend workshop a year at my school to talk about business to art students, and I guarantee that that was a massive loss rate for all of their talented artists. To you gotta take, like, you're all gonna be business owners. You're gonna all be business owners on, like, a massively intimate level where you are the advertiser and the tax doer and the promoter. Every aspect of it is on you as an artist, and you're just failing students so bad. Not to force them. They should be, every semester there should be a class on business and what small business ownership, like,
Mhm.
not about how to promote, not about how to get into galleries. Like, they're like, here's how you write a thing, get into a gallery. No, you got to learn how to sell your stuff. You got to learn how to do the show. You got to learn what tax rights there are in New Jersey versus New York. Like, and whatever. I will get off of that soapbox, but I
I
have
will d I will come up
issues.
on it with you. I will come up on it with you
Ugh.
because my as somebody who, up until just a handful of months ago, I was self-employed for 15 years, right? Only recently did I get an outside
Hmm.
job for there's an episode about that. People can listen to it if they wanna know more. It infuriated me that I could not teach at the college level because
Mm.
I don't have a master's. I want to teach a professional practices. Now, I will say I know a lot of artists who are professors and there are professional practice, you know, either courses or portions of like senior capstone type programs and things like that. They are more
Hmm.
common now than for sure when I was in school. And
Yeah.
so like that's getting better. That's there. The awareness is at least there, but I'm like, but with all due respect to my wonderful friends who are wonderful teachers, wouldn't it be better to have somebody who's actually owned a business for a couple decades to teach the
Hmm.
business class? Even though I don't have a master's, who cares?
Yeah.
I've got 15 years. Like, what?
Yeah.
Come on. Why do you
Yes.
need?
I
Because it's
I
just,
I'd take your
yeah,
class. Yeah.
it's unsettling.
No,
It's
you're
unsettling,
very
but
right,
I
and
digress.
it is an incredibly different skill. Like, it's just wildly the other direction from, learning to even even be a production potter, which is an aspect of it, or, like, to produce quickly and to produce, all of those things that you can learn. That's the business. I don't know. And people just drop like flies.
The business side is totally different than, like, I don't think you need an MBA. Like, that's too generic
Mm-mm.
and broad. Like, what you're gonna learn for corporate business is completely different than what we need as
Yes.
independent or maybe a small team and the reality of the arts and craft and all of these things.
You're also the factory, you know?
Mhm.
You're not hiring a factory, you're the factory. So it's like you have to learn about that, which you're not going to learn about in business school. Like nobody in business school is, assembling every piece that they sell. They're farming it out to whoever, some other country, to Thailand to build the thing. And then or there's so many different ways to do business. But if it's they're producing a thing, they're not doing each one by hand. And so to learn to manage that is such a specific thing. What else is wrong with the world?
Right? Like, we're gonna solve all the problems. That's the other piece I also feel like, and, like, the stake I'm taking on the internet, the hill I will die on, is the amount of other, online education is there now, but so much of it is that broad,
Mhm.
like, I'm gonna teach you this business model or SEO or this or that or whatever, which is valid if the type of business you wanna have fits within what they're talking about, right? So, like, SEO
Mhm.
or Shopify or e-commerce, all this stuff, or, do you run sales? Do you do this and email lists and all these things are completely different for somebody who's coming up with clever graphics and drop shipping t-shirts,
Right.
than those of us who can't answer the emails because your hands are in clay. And therefore, your
Mhm.
computer time is separate from your making time, is separate from your shipping time, is separate from all of these other things. Like, it's
Mhm.
just a very specific set of needs, and also why I keep going back to asking people whenever people, how do I make reels better? Well, first tell me why you want to make reels better. Like, do you want to be an
Mhm.
influencer? Because the way we're going to make reels for you if you want to be an influencer is completely different than if you are using Instagram as one piece of your marketing funnel to sell the work that you make.
Mhm.
But people don't like that question. They just want a fast answer. Anywho, now I will come off my soapbox and I'm going to make myself get back to our community questions, because otherwise I think you and I are just going to solve all the world's problems. And
Oh, we'll certainly bitch about it.
yeah, okay. I'm here for it, clearly.
Yeah.
So, since we were talking about all the various things you're doing and maybe some of the things you're pulling away from, that was definitely a common thread to a couple of questions, both from Debbie and Jenna asking about how you balance your time with all the different processes that you are skilled at between sculpture and jewelry and lettering
Mm.
and everything else. So, sounds to me like you're making some intentional decisions, but
Yeah, I don't usually do them all at the same time, and that's problematic. I have been really, hitting some walls on the sculpture thing, and I think, if I'm gonna be brutally honest about myself, I think that the leaning back after the COVID and I had a few good years of really sculpting, the retreat back into running a business was a cowardly thing because I found sculpting to be hard. Like it was just hard for me to do it. It's mentally taxing and it's kind of emotional and I ran into a real lack of motivation to do it and beat myself up about that really hard and I'm still in that place and I think that I don't need to run a jewelry business. I'm not supporting our family on it. It was just sort of because I was raised in a capitalist society and I have this belief that I am valid if I'm making money with what I do. I don't know why I can't shake that. Don't
years and years of
I
programming? I
don't like
mean,
it. Yeah, it's programming and it's like it's an external motivating factor that's real easy to grab. And I find it very much harder to motivate myself to make sculpture, even though I desperately want to be making sculpture. I have such a weird block about it. And this is the thing I proposed to talk about it in Sika was one of their they have this like conversation thing. And I was like, let's get together and talk about motivation. Like I want
yes,
to
please.
hear other people's solutions because I have a really hard time with it and I need like skills. I don't want to just like cry about it. Like I can't make myself sculpt. I want to be like, help me. Like somebody help me. figure it out because I am dying here and I am finding every excuse not to. I'm like, "Well, I guess I have to make a jewelry business." It's like, you don't. You have to sculpt. And so, there's always a reason not to be doing the thing I feel I should be doing, and I'm not there yet. I'm in that place and stuck, and I'm trying, and I think that letting go of the jewelry business was the first really good step in the way, and I still do it. Like, I just today, I'm putting together a big order for Philadelphia Museum of Art, which is awesome. So I'm selling my jewelry there, and I'm excited about that. But and another one from Raven Tile Works. So I do have some places I'm still cross working on with that stuff. And but I've whittled down. I did about 15 shows last year. I'm doing one this year because I know it's a good show, and I'm I'm just like I'm like, "You have to let it go." Like, I just had a firm talking to myself, like, "What do you want out of life, and why are you wasting your time doing this thing? It is just
Hmm.
because you believe your value comes from, 'I made this much money last year.'" And that is not where I need to be with my work. Thankfully, I'm grateful. I'm grateful that this isn't what's supporting my family, but I need to let it go. Like, it's such a weird psychological thing, and it's definitely a struggle. And so, to answer the question, I don't work on the same all the things at once. I haven't thrown in years, other than to demonstrate for my students, and haven't done. I've signed off with doing the lettering work, and whatever. I go in phases. So right now, I'm trying to get back to the sculpture phase and just really let go of the tile and jewelry work, mostly, except for a few things.
I so appreciate that answer. I really hope that NCICA accepts that proposal because I will be in that room because I'm very much in the same place.
Like, somebody must have figured it out, right?
Maybe, I don't know. Or is this where the tortured artist comes in? Like the stereotype comes in.
Yeah, we could all just get together and cry, I don't know. That's okay.
Right, exactly. Can a pharmacist be in the room? Like, I don't know. Is medicine
No.
involved? What do we need?
I mean, I'm willing, I'm open to the yeah.
Something,
Oof.
anything. Because it's like as you're talking, I'm thinking in my head, like, yes, 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 realizing I want to go deeper in this conversation and having no idea
Yeah.
how to because I'm in it in the same
Mm.
place. So it's like, I don't know what the
Yeah.
question is.
Tell
I
me
don't know
about
what
that.
the
What's your block?
see, even just answering that question. This is what's so interesting about working for someone else for the first time in my adult life. Is that I have
Mhm.
now detached my ability to buy groceries and pay the bills from my creativity for the first time
Mm.
ever. So the photography businesses I had were both events. So whether social events or corporate events. And I would liken event photography to production pottery in the sense that, like, it is very much about being very good at a skill and a craft and producing the same result over and over and over again, right? So I wasn't taking creative leaps during someone's wedding, right? Because you don't get a
Right,
second
yeah.
shot, literally, right? Like,
Right.
let me go try this new thing when you're about to
Mhm.
walk down the aisle,
Yeah.
which is only going to ever happen
I'm gonna
once
throw a bucket of
in this
water on you,
day.
trust me, trust me.
It'll be great. It's going to
Yeah.
be so cool, I swear. Like,
Yeah.
it just wasn't the time or the place. I felt too much responsibility to the people that had hired me to take those
Yeah.
kind of risks. And also, I would say I wasn't entirely, at the time, I wasn't entirely interested in it either. I think for me, art school, I got really tired of. You mentioned earlier that sometimes there's the Venn diagram between craft and art, but sometimes one leans more heavily from one way to the next. And I think I got really tired of, from my own experience, of seeing people with very little craftsmanship come up with these philosophical, like,
Mm.
when you're 20, 21, 22, I'm like, you're just bullshitting because you didn't finish the assignment. Like,
So real.
like, this is
Oh,
not a symbol
yeah.
of, you know, whatever this blank space is not representative of whatever emotional gap,
Yes.
blah blah blah. No, you just didn't get it done. And so I found myself not interested in those conversations, right? Like the capital A art, I wasn't that interested in it. I wanted to be very good at a craft. And I would say I got to that
Yeah,
for sure with like
I feel
I've
that.
photographed in completely dark churches with no lights on. I've photographed for events that only ever happened after sunset with no light. Like, put me in whatever room, I can take a good picture. It's not
Wow.
a problem at this point. And so then I automatically went that way with pottery as well. So it's even interesting, like,
Mm.
I know I wanna improve on my skills, but even just prioritizing yourself, like, taking the time out of the day to say, "I'm gonna go do this thing," not because anything's gonna come of it, but just because that's the thing. I mean, I feel that way. To make this more simple and less philosophical, I even have that same block to, like, go out for a run, like, physically take care of yourself. You know that's a value, you know that's, like, this is our one life. If you wanna make the most of it, you should probably not, you know, stay healthy in whatever reasonable fashion. I'm not trying to be a gym bro, but, like
No, but it's real though. Motivation is an issue on so many levels.
And also, I'm picturing now the "it's fine, everything's fine" meme with the is it a dog and the cup and all the fire around it? Like, we're supposed to be motivated while everything's on fire around us.
Yep. And how much do I pay attention to? Like, what's my social responsibility of awareness? And, can I just go live in the woods by myself or is that irresponsible? Yeah, yeah,
Mhm, mhm. Do you ever watch the show I can't believe I'm gonna talk about television because I watch very little, but have you ever seen the show The
yeah.
Good Place?
Watched the first 2 seasons, but not the 3rd one.
Yep.
So don't give it away.
No, 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 I can't even remember what's what. Just the premise of it in general, like, you talking about is
Yeah.
it responsible to go live in the woods by yourself? It made me think of that whole idea of, like, you think you're doing something that's good, but then actually there's this waterfall effect that you don't know about that,
Mhm.
buying the reusable
Mhm.
straws took more energy than the plastic
Right.
ones. Was that
Oh,
good or bad?
yeah.
I
Oh,
don't have
man.
any
It's hard
answers.
to be alive. I think the answer is you do your best and you'd be willing to change. Right? Like, when you find out that what you're doing is wrong, you adjust. You don't be like, "Well, screw that, I give up." You just be like, "No, I'll keep trying."
Yep, yep.
I don't
I don't have any answers, but I really wanna be in that room when Nsika accepts this conversation,
know.
right?
Yeah, it would be a good one. And we should just advertise it like, "They didn't accept it, but come to this bar at this time and we're gonna talk." Like, we're gonna have at it, especially if you have an answer.
Also, I
Ugh.
feel like the conversation just should happen at not in a, like, typical workshop room, period, anyways. Like, let's either have it in a therapist's office or at a bar, one or the other.
Yeah. One after the other. Yeah, I have talked to therapists about it. I keep thinking I need, like, a life coach rather than a therapist on that one. I need somebody who's, like,
Mm.
expert at motivation, not at, like, "Let's dig into your childhood." I'm like, "No, no, no, I just want tips. I wanna, like like,
Move me
how do we get"
forward.
No, I don't know. Right, I wanna get past this block fast. I don't wanna, like so I am definitely still and I have some techniques that like, if I do give this talk, I'll be like, "Here are a few things that have actually worked for me." Not always and whatever, but I'll give them in case they're things that'll work for you, and, like, so, hopefully other people would have things to be like, "This worked for me for 2 years, it doesn't work anymore, but it was amazing at that time," or, "It still works," or whatever. I think that conversation would just attract desperate people, not necessarily people who have solved it, but you hope that they would come too.
That's hilarious. Hilarious. I'm laughing so hard because it
Mhm.
also feels accurate. Like, yes, I'm showing up for you to give me the
It's
answers.
real, I
That's
know.
why I'm here. Like
Yeah. But it's just a conversation. I'll be like, "No, I did this so that I could get the answers." That was one of my pitches in it as like, I'm not gonna talk, I'll introduce the topic, but then I wanna hear what people have to say, like, you gotta and then, the pitch of the talk was we would spend I think it's an hour long, the first half talking about our struggles, and then we make sure we spend the second half dedicated to our successes so that we don't just sit there and bitch and moan about it. We can be like, "And here is something I did that helped me overcome, and here is something that got me out of a hole," or whatever, because, I don't wanna just complain.
Well, I think the point we kind of glossed over it, but I think you made a great point. Well, we were talking about it in terms of are you doing something good or not, but I think the same holds true is that like realizing the techniques or the skills or the tricks or the tools of what works is going to change. I mean, that's the thing that popped in my mind at least of like, yeah, for 2 years doing a I don't know, a bullet journal worked really well to get into this habit, and then something
Mhm.
happened
Mhm.
and it doesn't work anymore. Or I used to write a to-do list at the end of every day and then estimate how much time each thing would take just so I could be realistic with myself and be like, "Oh, the list that you thought you were gonna get done tomorrow is actually impossible because that's 16 hours worth of
You've
work
got
and you
good
have
suggestions.
4 meetings." So, oh, I've done a lot of things that have worked. It's just not
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, see, that's what we need this conversation for, because it's like, then we can just be like, "Well, I'll try these 3, and maybe they'll work," and
Right, right.
for now,
So,
yeah.
because the first thing that came to my mind was, like, routine, right? That's what everybody always says.
Yeah, my big one that got me out of a year of depression when COVID hit and I didn't do anything, that actually got me sculpting, was I made a real deep commitment. I still have my 10-minute, sand timer over there, that I was gonna spend 10 minutes every day no matter what in my studio, and if I was feeling grumpy, I could just wash the floor, but I had to be in here for a 365, and I gave myself accountability by posting about it online. And I was like, I mean, I didn't post about it every day, but at the beginning, I was like, I'm going to do this thing. And so I put the external accountability out there. And then I would say probably 60% of the days I got working, and it got me in here and it got me doing stuff. And about 40% of the days I just cleaned. But it made a huge difference when I was in a place where I had spent a year not doing a thing. It, like, really transformed for me. So then I did 3 years, maybe 4, of 365, and then I burnt out so hard on that and was just like, last year was just a disaster, and I kept trying, like, a new, "Oh, well, that's not working," a new one, and I was like, "Okay, well, that technique isn't working for me anymore, and I need to let it go because it's just being a problem in my life," and so I'm on the hunt for something new to get me going again, but it's not like I'm not working, I'm working my butt off. I need something to get me sculpting.
Right. That's the
So
thing. I can work like, anything that I already know how to do is not a problem.
mhm,
It's doing the new thing, right?
mhm.
It's the friction of the thing that is the desire or the idea or the preference, not the thing that,
Yeah, the
like
scary thing or the whatever.
yeah, the thing you might not be any good at, or the thing that you're probably not gonna be any good at for at least 3 to 6 months, if not longer. But,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
any of that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Where do we go from here? We have no answers, and that's probably the most realistic, conversation we could possibly have.
That's right. We have a lot of opinions, and that's fine. I think it's good to talk about stuff though, like, it helps you sort your thoughts and not feel alone in the world and all that, so
Well, it's why people hear me gripe on and on, well, not gripe, but go on and on about community so much, especially to your point in the beginning of the fact that most of us are in these basement studios, like, squirreled away all by
mhm.
ourselves. It can start to feel like
Yeah.
the struggle I'm having is only it's my problem, nobody else has experienced this, or everybody else is doing better, or all the less
Mhm.
than fun things. I don't know. It's normalizing things, isn't it?
Yes, it's true.
So, well, what have we not talked about that you wish people knew?
Oh, we not talked about,
Or
I don't
maybe that you
know.
wish students knew, since you've been in the classroom for so long too?
Yeah, that's a big question. People so often, I've been doing some school visits and stuff, which is an honor. And, I've had some of my students be like, tell me the answer, how do I make it? And it
Mhm.
just feels like I struggle with the concept. I don't want to give false hope. If you are going to be supporting a family, you can make it as a potter, and it's really unlikely. It's a little bit like trying to make it as an actor or something. Like, you can do it, and you have to be willing to sort of live a unwealthy life for a time until you build your success. Like, that's why most people teach or do something else while they're doing it if they need to be making money. And I don't have the answer. I don't want to scare somebody away from it, but I want there to be realism around it. And I think it's dumb. Like, I think we should honor the arts better. But the reality is, it's very hard to make enough money to support a family in this business. And even really, really well known artists and potters who you think, like, well, they've made it, are struggling. And So I don't it's like that's such a hard question for me because they're all young and idealistic, and I don't wanna be like, "Oh, no, don't do this," because I hate that. I also, like, hate that, like, don't go to art school. Like, who would ever pursue the arts? Like, that's such a downer thing. I don't want that attitude, but also it's kind of like, "Alright, study business, like, be ready to sell your soul a little, be ready to work really long hours, be ready for it to be hard, and watch a lot of videos from people who are doing it because you can learn a ton that you don't have to make those mistakes or whatever."
Mhm.
But, so it's like that's a question I wish I had an answer. Like, what would you tell young people? And it's a little like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you can make it. I hope you can, and I think you should try. And I wish it was easier for artists.
I always think about, like, the thing that I say to figure out first, but I don't know if you can actually, even though I say this over and over and over again. But I think it's one of those things that maybe you have to mess up first to figure it out, is figure out the type of life you wanna have first and then fit the business
Mm.
model around that, right? Because there's plenty of business
Hmm.
models that will take over your life. And if that's not
Mhm.
the number one goal, you know,
Mhm.
if your number one goal is to become a millionaire, then okay, great. Go let the business model take over your life because that's probably what's
Mhm.
gonna need to happen to some extent. But if the goal is make the art that brings you joy or that connects with your
Mhm.
soul, or, I was chatting to somebody a few weeks ago that was, she was saying her goal is to be able to make pots and have a garden. Like, that's it. That's as long as what
Mm.
she's doing allows
Mhm.
her to make pots and have a garden, then that's successful. Then it starts to adjust the calculus a little bit of what that success needs to look like, right?
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
$900 a month healthcare notwithstanding, because it always comes back to healthcare. So,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. And don't have kids. Like, good heavens. I
Yeah.
oh no. Oh, they're so expensive and they take so much time. And they're great.
But
I
then
love
they
them.
turn
Love
18.
you.
Then they turn 18 and you get to go to France for a workshop.
Yeah. I did a workshop in Italy last summer, which was this huge splurge. I didn't teach it, but I went to a workshop with Beth Kavanagh, who's like my hero. And it was transformative, like, it was so inspiring and so eye-opening and pretty emotional. It was a really great experience, and I still have feelings about it that I don't think I've processed, and about, her experience as a sculptor, the top. She's the top in
Right.
the field, and, it's still not easy. Like, she still struggles with all of the same things, just sort of on a bigger scale, and that was both really, really encouraging because it's like, it's not just me, and really, really depressing, like, even at the top. It's not easy, and her work just blows me away. It was so good. Oof, that was a good experience.
It's so
Yeah.
incredible what she does. Somebody said once, I think it was Alicia, one of our community members, who had only just quit her teaching job and started her own business, and was saying, like, being self-employed is what nobody tells you is, like, a huge constant lesson in self-development. I'm probably butchering how she actually said it, but I agree completely that, like, to your point, Beth has the same issues you're having, but on a different scale. It's like constant self-reflection and self-development because those little monsters are gonna keep coming up no matter what level you're at until we, like, I'm
Mm.
mixing all my metaphors now, but slay whatever mental dragons you have to battle. Like, the way you feel about money is gonna be the same whether you're selling a pot for $20, $80, or $1,000. You're still gonna have to, like, battle whatever junk is in your head around that, just as one example. So,
It's real.
I don't know. Oh, man. There's so many other places to go, but since we've talked about your sculptures and the jewelry you're no longer going to make, so nobody get excited when you come to the website.
No, I am still making it. I am, I'm just not full-time marketing it, so I do still have a website where you can buy my jewelry. I had a business partner because I was really pushing the grow the business thing, and I agreed that it felt like the time to be done that. But I did have that experience of like having a partner, of an employee essentially, and what that looked like, and just trying to grow a business. I feel like having that experience and knowing it's not what I want was very, very valuable. I loved working with her. She was absolutely amazing, a joy. and incredibly helpful, but it felt like the only way this is gonna work is if we continue to grow, and the whole aspect of it working is needs to be focused on growth. It can't just be working on sustainability or managing where we're at. It has to get more and more and more, and it felt like, the reason I wanted to start the business was so that it could become self-sustaining, and maybe I could employ somebody to do it, and it wouldn't become more and more and more for me, and it was like, I just don't see that avenue. All I see is this business, if it grows, is going to become all consuming. And it already was pretty all consuming. And so I was like, yeah, I'm glad I learned and that that's not the direction I want to go and could let that go. But I still want to maintain it just on a much smaller, not trying to be big scale, not have employees or whatever. So
It is the constant question of what is enough for me.
Mm, yeah. I had a great conversation with Kate Schrader about this, who grew her business to having several employees and then just felt like that's just more work for nothing other than having employees. Like it was just so much more work. And she's like, I'm losing my soul here, like, and the pressure and all of that. And she's like, I can maintain the same kind of level of business for myself if I scale it back and rather than try and grow it. And that was very, I was like, I like to hear that, not because I want you not to have found great fulfillment and success and that's sad, but like I'm not alone. Like that I had a similar experience just made me be like, yeah, it is hard. And growing a business turns you into a business owner rather than an artist. And that's a trade-off. And you got to decide if that's what you want to be doing. And I'll share one more story since we're here. I had a great conversation with Noelle Matawi, who does Matawi Tile, and she has, I can't remember, 64 full-time employees or something, and just a world-renowned, incredible business. And, I was like, this was when I was in the heart of trying to decide, last year, am I gonna grow? This was almost exactly a year ago. And she just was like spewing forth wonderful wisdom. She's so wise and so giving with her thoughts about it and was just sharing a lot about her business is a business. She's like, I do get to do designing still, but it's like that is such a little piece of it. And I go to conferences, but I don't go to art conferences. I go to business conferences because I'm a business owner. And that was very like, oh, like I was in this point of like, how can I grow? How can I? And I'm like, well, then you become a businesswoman, not an artist. And she's amazing at it, and she still, does artistic things, but that's her thing. She's an amazing businesswoman with artistic sensibilities. I've really valued those conversations with other artists, has been very enlightening to me to inform, what path am I really walking here? What is the end goal? Like I had so fantasized in my mind, and then I will never have to work again, because I'll have employees to do it all for me. And the reality is, you'll be working full time to support those employees and full time to just maintain the business. And that's like the opposite of what I want to be doing more art, not less. And just having that awareness has been very enlightening for me.
Oh, yeah. Because then as soon as you start to grow a team, now your job is managing people. It's not that you are free to do whatever. It's that
Yeah.
the job has changed.
And there's satisfaction in that, and responsibility for them. If you have a bad year and you have to fire someone, or you have a bad year and you have to sacrifice your own thing or whatever, like, you have this
Mhm.
responsibility to keep it growing and sustainable, and
Yep.
that's like like, if I have a bad year and I'm the only one affected by it, that's different than having other people depending on it. Different kind of pressure.
Oh, the moment I got so much better at talking about price and money was the moment I hired when I first had an employee. Because then
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about price wasn't about me, it was about protecting their time.
Yeah.
And as soon as it was about somebody else, I could do it. But up until that point, it was always really hard.
Mhm. It's like, "I'm not worth it at all."
Oh,
Yeah.
so many things. So
Yeah,
many
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Where do we even begin? That's a
Mm.
whole nother therapy/podcast session.
Yeah. There's the fine line
Oh,
between therapy and podcasts.
ooh, that's a scary thought when I think about, like, podcast bros and all the things. Anyways, let's not go down that
Mm.
rabbit hole.
Yes.
That's
Right.
okay. Um,
Uh.
I'm gonna hard right turn away from that. Where can we send people on the internet to come see all of the myriad of things that you are doing?
They cannot. No one's invited. I, just
France.
need to
They can
get
come to
myself.
France.
Yeah, let's all go to Strasbourg. I
Mhm.
don't have I'm not doing shows right now, and I'm not showing my sculpture yet. And so what the sum total is, I do sell jewelry online, you could look at that, but, that's not a goal, that's just a side hustle, and, anyway, blah, 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 I'm not trying to be out there, I'm trying to teach, so come to my workshops, I'm very good at workshops. So I'll be doing workshops a lot, and I should be starting to post them on my website, and I have lots of kind of fun, sort of unique techniques for building and creating, like, the jewelry and the tiles and the six-piece mugs that I do that make and I, wanna do some sculpture workshops as well because that's very fun. So, workshops is where I'll be at this year, and then we'll see what next year brings, right? We'll see if I can get the advice I need to get out of my slump and be sculpting like a wizard.
I feel like, and this may be helpful, it may be not, but when you just said sculpting workshops, I was like, oh, there's the solution to like getting you going because you're doing it for somebody else. Like I was saying about pricing, you're teaching, which is the comfort zone, but then you're sculpting. I don't know.
Mhm.
I hope it'll work. Or
Mhm.
otherwise, we'll just need to have a
Thanks.
cocktail together at Nsika and we'll just bitch about it.
Oh, man.
Can we do both? Can we both find our
Oh,
solutions and
yes.
also let's do both.
Yeah, yeah, and have fun. Yeah, I'm all for it. That's what the
It's amazing.
community's all about. It's
Exactly.
that's so fun that
Exactly.
you how many times have you presented at Nsika?
Twice. Well, the first time was the first year that they did live podcast recording. So like all of the I don't want to say
Mm,
all the pottery podcasts, but like there was a whole group of us. So that felt less that's more credit to Ben Carter and his brain and his space in our clay community than
mhm.
like me applying. And then the second year I gave a talk on photographing your work and like fixing very common mistakes
Oh,
and
neat.
I
Which one was that at?
that was Richmond? I think it was Richmond. 'Cause that was 2
Oh,
years
just a
ago?
cou 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
because being the your value is what you produce and give and all of these things, I did the audacious thing that was photograph pots live, so I tethered my camera
Yeah.
to the big screen, and lost a lot of
Awesome.
sleep thinking about whether or not technology was gonna actually work, but it did all work out, and that was
Yeah.
great, and it was fun,
Good.
and they put me in a much bigger room than I anticipated, so I was glad
Yeah.
I had a blazer on because nobody could see how much I was actually sweating.
I did one in Cincinnati that was in the big room.
Yeah.
Where it was the demonstration thing, and it was
Yep.
like, I've never seen that many people, and, like, my mouth goes all dry, and I'm like, "Don't shake, they'll see your hands shaking," like and the one of the most disconcerting things was that it was such a vast room that only the first couple rows right in front of me were looking at me, and everybody else was looking off to the sides because that's
The
where the screens
screens.
are, and you're like, "Nobody's paying attention," like, it really seems like nobody's looking at you, but you're like, "No, they are looking at you, it's just back there."
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
unnerving.
100%. Thankfully, years of theater prepared me to
Oh,
when you look out, you this is gonna ooh, spoiler, this is gonna disappoint some people because, like, I think anybody gets a little bit nervous or anxious on a stage, even if you're presenting as being confident, there's still butterflies
right.
going on inside. So when you look out at a crowd, you look just above the tops of people's heads, and it looks
Mm,
like you're looking at everybody, but you're not actually making
yeah.
eye contact, and that does a does a world of benefit for those of us on the stage, because as soon as you actually make eye contact with somebody, forget it. It's like
I have the problem where there's always, like, somebody in this section and somebody in this section, and somebody over here that I keep looking at, like, that's
yes.
my person, like, and then I talk to this person, I talk to that person, and I'm like, "I wonder what that's like for them," like, that I'm talking to you, there's 1,000 people here, and you're the one that I keep talking to, and
Uh-huh.
I don't and every once in a while, I catch myself doing it, and I'm like, "Well, it's just because you've got bright white hair, like, I see you, and
You made eye
yeah, and you're
contact.
looking at me," and then they feel like they can't stop looking at you because they're like, "She keeps talking to me," like If I look away.
Yes, yes. I have been that person in a crowd because I can't help.
Oh, yeah.
I have no poker face, so I'm very expressive reacting to what people are
Yeah.
saying, and so then that gets latched on, and then you're like, "Oh god, now I have to, like,
Yeah.
respond facially to
Yeah.
everything somebody says."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Right.
It's a whole thing.
Encourage
But
them. Yeah. Oh,
oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, the things
Yeah.
people never would know unless they get all the way to the end of our conversation. Mwahaha. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it.
What other deep secrets?
Exactly.
Don't have anything. I feel like I should come up with something that's like, well, here's what nobody wants. Well, here's how you succeed.
Right? Like, we put the gem all the way at the end, and that'll tell us how many people got to the end.
Yes. The answer is 42. Do you know that reference?
Yes. Oh, man. That's amazing. Oh, Christina, thank you so much. I will let you get back to the sculpting in the studio.
Yeah. I'll go tend to my remaining child. One last one.
I was like, the
Thanks
sculptor
for having
one?
me on. This has been really fun.
Yay!
Yes, he is
I'm
one
so
of
glad.
the sculptor one. I have sculpted 2 of my children, but I didn't sculpt the oldest one, and I don't know if he cared. Like, I will. I'm happy to sculpt him. He's adorable, but like, I have my other 2 children sitting here. He went away to college when I was getting into it. So anyway,
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of firstborns in the world who are going to be like, typical.
I only care about the owners. No.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right, thanks. This has been fun.
Thank you. I hope this conversation with Christina has given you permission to be honest with yourself about the gap between what you're spending your time on and what you might actually want to be spending your time on or want to be making. Because I think so many of us are in that gap right now. And the question is less about how to escape the gap and more about how to survive it without abandoning the work entirely. If you're a full-time maker who still needs to pay the bills, sometimes the answer is building guardrails around the work that sells, so there's still room for something else. One technique that Francesco and I employed when our giant mug took off on Etsy a few years ago was to limit how many of those giant mugs we actually made in any given month. Once they were sold, and people had to wait for the next round of production. Because when we first hit that page 1 recommendation and hung out there until we actually chose to close it down for ourselves, we could have spent the rest of our days making giant mugs, to be honest. Instead, we limited the production to make sure that there was still time left to make other objects and explore other ideas that we also wanted to pursue. And as we just talked about on Debbie's last episode here on the podcast, there's nothing wrong with limiting the supply of something that is in demand. Turns out, protecting your sanity also makes for a pretty great marketing strategy. And if you're not full-time, well, that's the benefit of having someone else pay for your healthcare, isn't it? You can play and experiment and worry a little bit less about whether the grocery bill is covered this week. For myself personally, the creative ideas I've had floating around in my head for at least over a year now were definitely, and still are definitely, the hardest to start. I have started them, a little bit at least, but you haven't seen any of them yet, have you? Because I haven't shared them on the internet yet. Because even when we are fully aware that social media mostly shows us the glossy endings of our artistic process, as Christina has so honestly expressed, it's still really hard to sit in that messy middle of figuring it all out. And I would argue that more often than not, we are always in some kind of messy middle, whether it be with our creative pursuits, starting or growing a business. The messy middle is, in fact, the majority of our lives, isn't it? So it's encouraging to hear from someone as accomplished as Christina, who's been making for decades, say out loud, I know what I want to be doing, and I keep finding reasons not to do it. And I'm working on that. That kind of honesty is its own form of courage. And it's encouraging me as I move into my own less publicized version of making, You don't have to have it all figured out to still be moving in the right direction. And you also don't have to share it with the internet to still be moving in the right direction. So as always, if you're in the middle of your own version of this messy middle, trying to figure out what you actually want your making life to look like versus what it might currently be, you're not alone in that. And there are about 100 makers from all over the world having that exact conversation right now inside of the community. Makers who are in the thick of pivots, letting things go, trying to get back into the work that lights them up. Makers who have recently found the work that lights them up and trying to fit it into everything life already had going on. And maybe those of us who are just barely getting started. If that sounds like your people, come find us at makersplaybook.com/community to learn more. Until next time, my friends, go get back to making your dreams a reality. Because together, we've got this. Audio post-production of this podcast is made possible by help from Christy Kotzfan, with promotional material assistance from Queenie Maliki. The Maker's Playbook podcast is recorded on the original homelands of the Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee people, where the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present.